Hi everyone, I briefly introduce myself. My name is Daniele Carmignani and I work in security reply and I'm involved in the SoftFIRE project. Now I will show you a tutorial with an example on how to use the SoftFIRE platform. So the first thing to do is to go to the Experiment Manager homepage, and here you need to log in with username and password and click login. What you can see now is the main page of the Experiment Manager. Here are listed all the resources that you can include inside your experiment, and you can find both virtual resources and, let me say, logical resources like the SDN controller access. On the top bar you can also find user resources where you find your own resources that you uploaded, the images that lists all the OS images that are available inside the OpenStack, the networks, like the name of the networks that you can ask for, and the flavors that are the names of the disks inside the OpenStack. This is the experiment that I'm gonna show you. We'll ask for an NFV resource, the iPerf, that deploys inside the Ericsson testbeds 2 virtual machines, an iPerf server and an iPerf client. We will ask for a physical resource. We will ask for access to the SDN controller inside Ericsson. We'll deploy a Firewall virtual machine inside the Focus testbed. And then we'll also ask to the monitoring resource Zabbix server inside Focus. Back to the home page, we are going to upload the archive with all the files needed. We click on Reserve Resource, then we click Browse. It will open the selector for files. Here you can see all the folders that are inside the archive that we are going to upload, and this is the archive. We select it and click Open, then Upload, and the system automatically starts to upload. Here we can see the answer by the Experiment Manager, and we can see all the resources that are in a reserved status. You can see the iPerf, the SDN controller, the Focus physical resource, the Firewall virtual resource, and on the bottom we can see also the monitoring resource. If we click Deploy, then the actual deployment of the resources start. We skip the waiting time, and this is the screen that's displayed to you once the deployment completes. Now you can see the status of all the resources with some useful information. You can see that here your virtual resources are in the null status, so they are not ready, and in this screen you can see that now the iPerf virtual machines are in active state, and the same goes for the Firewall. So all your resources are now ready to be used. Now I want to show you how to interact with the virtual resources that we deployed. We take the floating IP address, so the reachable one from inside the VPN, and we go on a terminal and we SSH on the virtual machine with the user Ubuntu and with the private key coupled with the public one that we put inside the descriptor that we uploaded. We do the same for the client iPerf machine. Now we are on both those virtual machines, and we use sudo to become root, because the commands are started by the root user, super user. Now that we became root, we are able to interact with the screen showing the iPerf application that is running. Now we want to interact with the SDN controller placed on the same testbed where the virtual machine are running. We take the token that have been assigned to us and we put in the header variable API token. Then we want to perform a GET request to discover the actual names of the OpenFlow nodes. We skip the output of this GET request because it's pretty big, but the inventory nodes name are the same and are static. Now once we selected the desired OpenFlow node, we want to perform a GET on the table that have been assigned to us. So we put all the URL with the name of the OpenFlow node, as you can see, and the number of the table. In this case, we'll select the number 11 and we'll put at the end of the URL. Then, trying a GET in the answer, we'll see the details about the table of the SDN controller with the rules. Now we want to add a new flow rule to the OpenFlow switch. We copy the ID of the flow from the answer to the URL of the request. So we had at the end /flow/the ID. Then inside the body of the request we'll specify the details about the flow that we are going to add. Then we also put the same ID in the ID field. And what we want to do with this flow is to disable the traffic to the IP endport of the iPerf server. So we'll change the IP inside the IPv4 destination with the internal IP address of the server. We already have the destination port selected to 5001. We change the table ID with 11 and we specify the drop action. Now we perform a put and what we get is a 200 OK answer. So our rule was injected inside the switch, and what we can see from the terminal is that now the iPerf has been stopped. Then I want to show you how to interact with the firewall resource. We copy the API address and we start performing requests to the web server listening. We get the routes that are currently installed on this firewall, and now we want to inject a new rule. We post to the same address and we want to allow but logging the traffic that reaches the port 5000 of the firewall. We perform a request on this port, and what we can see is that if we go to the dashboard link that is provided inside the answer of the firewall resource, then what is shown to you is a dashboard where all the logs produced by the firewall resource are displayed. You can see some statistics about the time, the source IP of the log, the destination port, and the details about every log that is produced by the firewall. You can also interact with the graphs and click on some parts to reduce the scope of the complete dashboard. Finally, I'll show you how to interact with the monitoring resource that deploys a Zabbix server. We take the URL and put it inside the browser. Then the login page of the dashboard is displayed. You can log in with admin Zabbix username and password, and this server is completely for you, so you can decide to configure it as you prefer. We'll see the dashboard. So this dashboard is dedicated to your environment. You can decide to monitor your machines, resources, processes, the status of the network, whenever you want, just installing the Zabbix plugin that you can find from the Zabbix page documentation, the official Zabbix page documentation.